Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Namaste and welcome back to the video course on watershed management. In module number 9 on drought and management, lecture number 37, today we will discuss about drought mitigation. So, some of the important topics covered in today's lecture include drought mitigation and management, drought warning and monitoring, mitigation and planning. So, keywords for today's lecture: drought mitigation, management and planning. So, as we were discussing earlier, so drought is a major issue in many parts of the world, and especially in watershed management. If you manage the watershed area with respect to water, land, vegetation, we can reduce the effects of drought. So, related to the drought, in the last two lectures we were discussing about the various aspects of droughts, then how to analyze the droughts, and then various related issues, consequences, all those things we were discussing in the last lecture. So, in today's lecture we will be discussing mainly on the drought mitigation aspects. So, once say if we cannot stop the drought, but we can do many things to prevent the effects of drought, or we can reduce the effects of droughts. So, in that sense, say mitigating drought means taking actions in advance of drought to reduce its long term risk. So, we are doing many things which will reduce the effects of the drought. So, this involve a wide range of tools, policies, activities, plans and programs. So, on a government level, central government or state governments or various district level, say we can have many plans, policies, activities and programs, so that the drought mitigation is effectively can be implemented, or the effects of droughts can be reduced to certain extent. So, that way when we look into drought mitigation, the important components of a drought mitigation plan include, so prediction. So, we have to predict, say whether there is any possibility of drought, say for this particular year or few months ahead, we have to predict. Then we have to monitor. So, we have to monitor the area, say on a watershed basis or a district basis or the area basis. We have to monitor the various the hydrological parameters and the water level in the reservoirs, then the agricultural aspects, all those things we have to monitor, and then see how the drought will, say whether it will be severe drought or moderate drought, like that. Then we have to study the impact. So, we have to do an impact assessment. So, that way we have to see that the say with respect to the severity of the drought, so what will be happening, whether there will be the agriculture crops say will be destroyed or not, whether the sufficient water will be available to the people or not. So, this kinds of impact assessments we have to do when we discuss about the drought mitigation. And then in that sense, say we can have by using now the modern tools like remote sensing, GIS, then hydrological modeling, then climatological modeling, etc. We can have now early warning systems. So, in many countries like United States, then say they have developed early warning system, drought warning system. So, that from that we can predict whether there is any possibility of droughts, and then accordingly we can go for mitigation plans. Then we have to come up with action plans to deal with the severity. So, once the drought come to the area, so say depending upon its severity, whether it is say mild, moderate or severe, so what kind of action plans. So, say since we have to help the community, we have to help the people, say there may be famine may be there may be water shortage may be there are so many issues will be there. So, how we can help the community, how we can do various things so that the severity will be reduced. So, that is the next step, action plans to deal with the severity. Then comes the relief and responses. So, relief and responses means once the drought has already set on the area or that particular area, then say the people or the system needs say various relief measures, say like there may be shortage of food, there may be shortage of water. So, then the crop may got destroyed. So, various issues will be there. So, the as a especially the government machinery, either the federal system or the state governments or the district administration. So, they have to give relief to the people through various means in terms of food products or monetary wise or whatever way it is possible. So, that way most of the time the system needs immediate responses and reliefs. So, that way the important components of a drought mitigation plans include prediction, monitoring, impact assessment, early warning systems, action plans to deal with the severity, and relief and responses. So, now within this context let us look into say what kind of action plans are possible or as far as mitigation is concerned. So, mitigation plans and programs and policies are implemented say during and before droughts to reduce the magnitude of risk to human life, property and productive capacity. So, that way we can see that say once say a drought warning system predicts there is a possibility of drought. So, say before the drought started we can do many measures. So, that say like related to agricultural management or water management or the ecological management, we can do many things. And then during the drought say also the system, the government machinery or the disaster management say bodies, they can do many things so that to reduce the magnitude of risk to human life, property and then the flora and fauna of that particular area. So, now say nowadays say instead of now just giving relief to the people, now we are looking for mitigation measures in advance. So, that now the shift is the public policy. So, we have to frame the policy in such a way that the drought relief to say instead of say earlier times if we are giving, so once the drought is set we are giving reliefs during the drought situation, but now we are looking for mitigation measures, I mean say before the drought set in or say during the drought, say various mitigation measures. So, that way it is important for adapting say, so that say now say we are all hearing about the climate change effects. So, we have to see whether say the effect of climate say the climate change effects will be having say the problems like drought kind situations. So, it is important for adapting to climate change, then restoring ecological balances and bringing development benefits to the people. So, that way we have to put the mitigation plans as far as the drought management is concerned. So, now let us look say as far as drought mitigations are concerned, say what are the important strategies possible. So, let us look to various issues related to the drought mitigation strategies. So, like there can be alternative cropping strategies, say if a particular area is always vulnerable to drought, then say instead of high water intense crops we can go for low water intense crops. So, like that alternative cropping strategies we can go. Soil and water conservation we can do say soil conservation, so that sufficient moisture will be maintained in the soil. Then water conservation and water harvesting, so reduction of usage of water, and then say various measures like water harvesting, promotion of water harvesting techniques. So, these are all examples for say as far as the mitigation strategy is concerned, and then we can go for emergency drought relief plans. So, in all this when we talk about the drought mitigation strategies, the main objectives generally are to combat drought, say to develop a national strategy for drought preparedness in both the short and long term, aimed at reducing the vulnerability of production systems to drought. So, drought is concerned, there can be a short term effect and long term effect. So, we have to come up with say when we are developing a drought mitigation strategy, we have to come up with a strategy or we have to come up with a preparedness in both the long term and short term strategies to reduce the vulnerability, say as far as crop product, say reduction crop or the say availability of water, all those issues are concerned. Then second one, to strengthen the flow of early warning information to decision makers and land users to enable the nations to implement strategies for drought interventions. So, if we can come up with the early warning systems, say in few months in advance, so then the decision makers or the policy makers, they can say they can come up with certain decisions that will be very useful, say in terms of say availability of food, water or any other measures are concerned. And then also say the owners of the land, say especially say wherever agricultural, say they can do go for appropriate interventions such that the crops can be saved. So, that way the land users, say if they can get appropriate warning systems, they can strengthen the drought related issues. Then third issues is to develop and integrate drought relief schemes and means of coping with environmental refuges into national and regional development plan. So, when we are going for development plans, either national basis or a regional basis. So, if some areas are especially drought prone and then if there is a possibility, say we can give advance warning that there is a possibility of droughts, then we can look into, say we can integrate the drought relief schemes within the existing schemes, so that say we can deal with the drought very effectively. So, that way say when we look into drought mitigation strategies, we have to look all these aspects in a comprehensive way and then come up with appropriate strategies suitable for that particular area, say depending upon the various say parameters like geographical or meteorological and say agriculture related parameters. So, now let us look, say when we look into drought mitigation, then what kind of commitments say we have to do to improve the system, say so we have to reduce the severity of the drought. So, in this slides we can say some of the important points are mentioned, like improve say land and water management. So, say as far as drought is concerned, mainly it is mainly say lack of available water. So, the water availability is reduced or there is no available water and then the land is affected. So, that way we have to improve the land and water management. So, that is one of the most important aspects. So, when we look into watershed management, so say it is always since watershed is a hydrologic unit, scientifically based hydrologic unit. So, it is always better to go for watershed based scheme. So, that will be more effective, as we were discussing in many of the earlier lectures. And then say another aspect is the soil management. So, in most of the drought prone area, the crops or the vegetation is not getting sufficient moisture. So, that way if we can do some soil management with respect to moisture availability, then say we can effectively deal with the drought. And then promote agricultural management and provide trainings. So, as I mentioned, say if you can shift to the crops which does not need much water. So, that way say agriculture water management can be effectively done, and that can be, say the farmers can be given appropriate training, so that they can go for more scientific based irrigation schemes or say crop rotation or the appropriate crop management. So, that way we can promote agricultural management and provide appropriate trainings. Then develop strategies for drought preparedness. So, we can in advance, as say drought mitigation plans, we can say develop appropriate strategies depending upon the various issues for that particular area, like the socio-cultural or the geographical or the meteorological say parameters. By considering these parameters, we can prepare the appropriate strategies for the drought preparedness. And then say in all the cases we need say wherever the area is drought affected, we need say large amount of financing. So that way how the central government or state governments or district administration can mobilize the finance, or we say some other time we have to help the farmers to deal such issues. So how to mobilize the finance, so that can be another commitment. Then say most of the time say we can see that the drought prone areas, say the deforestation has been taken place most of the area, or the vegetation cover will be much thin in those areas. So we can look whether the possibility of afforestation or reforestation depending upon the areas, say how we can improve the existing forest, or how we can reforest, or we can say put different types of plants which are suitable for that particular environment, and then go for reforestations. And then we have to also look into minimum necessities of the communities. So in a drought prone area, say mainly the people will be affected with lack of water, food, and other basic amenities. So we have to see when we are looking to drought mitigation, we have to see how we can provide these kinds of basic amenities. Then another issue is social issues, say related to the say due to us the for especially the agriculture sector, there will not be any jobs, or the crops would have already destroyed due to the drought effects. So that way people may say the laborers may be migrating from one location to another location. So these kinds of social issues also we have to see when we prepare appropriate drought mitigation commitment plans. So now say within this context, as we can see that drought monitoring and early warning is very important aspect to have appropriate drought mitigation plans. So that way drought monitoring and early warning system is very important. So most of the time drought is concerned, the onset of drought will be very slow process. So typically a slow onset phenomenon is generally as far as drought is concerned. So often possible to provide a early warning of an emerging drought, that is possible by considering various hydrological, meteorological and other parameters. Early warning allows for a shift from reactive to proactive hazard management as far as that particular area is concerned. So if you look into various countries, then drought monitoring techniques across the world, we can see that various countries use various norms as far as the drought monitoring or early warning is concerned. So for example, China consider standardized precipitation index, as we discussed in our earlier lecture. So they calculate the standardized precipitation index to monitor drought occurrence, whether there is any possibility of drought, or some particular area is amenable to droughts. Then if United States of America is concerned, say instead of choosing one particular say drought index, say they use multiple climate indices and indicators. So based upon various indicators, they have developed advanced level early warning or monitoring tools, so that by considering all these parameters or all these indices, but some of the indices which we have discussed in one of our earlier lecture also. So they use this or various indices to come up with say for early warning as far as drought is concerned. Then countries like Australia is concerned, say that tries to quantify in terms of precipitation percentiles. So that is what say they use as far as the early warning is concerned. And then African countries, as per the FAO, Food and Agriculture Organizations, and other United Nations say organizations, say they use a system called famine early warning systems, FEWS net. So this is has been developed under the umbrella of say United Nations development schemes and FAO. So this say since in Africa many countries are in many countries drought is a common phenomena. So that way this system has been found to be very effective. Then in Asian countries like Afghanistan, Pakistan and western parts of India, say we have got a early warning scheme called South Asia Drought Monitor Schemes. So this SADM, this is based on remote sensing data, drought related indices, some of the say indices like standard precipitation index, and then GIS. So, this also seems to be found to be very effective. And then say early warning systems like FEWS net is mainly focused on Africa, where majority of food security warning systems operate, but it also covers parts of Central Asia, Central America and the Caribbean. So, that way say based upon say the various available say drought indices, and then advanced tools like remote sensing, GIS, and then other hydrological modeling tools, say various warning systems have been developed and are in effective use in many countries. So, now coming back to again to drought mitigation and preparedness measures. So, as far as preparedness is concerned, say when we deal with drought mitigation, say which can be either structural measures or the non-structural measures. So, the structural measures or physical measures are actually we are say directly implementing in the field, say as a development of a structure or an engineering project. So, like appropriate crops, sand dams, engineering projects, etc. So, to deal with to prepare as far as drought concerned, so we can go for this kinds of structural or physical measures. Then non-structural measures actually say it is mainly to deal with the government policies, awareness, warnings, etc. So, that is we are not implementing directly in the field, but the policy or strategies will be developed and awareness will be developed between the communities, so that say this will be very effectively implemented. Then as far as mitigation and preparedness is concerned, say it is defined as pre-disaster activities that are undertaken within the context of disaster risk management and are based on sound risk analysis. So, when we are preparing the drought mitigation plans, strategies or the preparedness, we have to make it appropriate in an appropriate way, such a way that it should be based upon the risk assessment or risk analysis. Say for example, water scarcity during the dry season. So, we have to analyze what are the problems, and then say whether it is the lack of rain or whether it is the soil nature or the drainage systems or whatever it is. So, and accordingly we can identify solutions, like say for example, some region we can have say instead of surface water dams we can have groundwater dams. So, where we can have appropriate structure, say that will stop the easy flow of the groundwater, so that sufficient moisture will be there and say even groundwater will be available. So, that way we can go for say preparedness as far as the particular system is concerned. And then say most important steps in lessening the effects of drought through, as we discussed, are mainly the soil conservation and water conservation. So, soil is concerned say against say soil erosion, or say to keep the soil moisture as far as the drought is concerned. And then water conservation is considered say to reduce reduce the usage of water in an effective way, so that say with less water we can have better agricultural production. So, water conservation. And then by protecting soil, it is better able to absorb rainfall or precipitation, but it can also help farmers to use less water. So, if more soil moisture is available, then farmers have to use only less water. So, that way water conservation is also possible. And then it also creates less water pollution by the pesticides and fertilizers present in most farm runoff. So, that is another indirect benefit. So, through soil and water conservation, if we can reduce the usage of water, then the water pollution problems due to the usage of fertilizers, pesticides and others we can reduce. So, as far as water conservation is concerned, say we are looking for say reduction in usage of water. So, like public use is often regulated, so that the usage of water is reduced. Then water conservation devices like low flow toilets as far as domestic usage is concerned, shower heads and then washing machines. So, for that particular area, particular communities are concerned, water conservation is possible. And then wherever say the water is not say sufficient water is not available through rainfall, then if the sea water, if the sea is nearby or coastal regions, we can look into desalination of sea water, as many of the Gulf countries are doing. And then say another important aspect is like water recycling, so that we can say recycle the water and then reuse it for various purposes. So, actually the next module is on water recycling and reuse. So, there we will be discussing more aspects. And then rainwater harvesting. So, like that say depending upon the area, depending upon the various conditions, depending upon the geographical areas or the socio economical aspects, we can have various measures as far as the drought mitigation is concerned. So, that way now when we look into drought mitigation, so we have to see the how we can protect the ecological systems or the area from say the water stress or the as far as the total area is concerned, say whether we can say manage appropriate way. So, that way when we look into drought mitigation, we have to look into the protections like dams, say we can have many dams and their associated reservoirs supply additional water in times of drought. So, in drought prone area we can look the possibility of having more dams, so that we can store more water. Then we can also get rainfall artificially through cloud seeding. So, it is an artificial technique to induce rainfall. So, that way another option. Then desalination of seawater for irrigation or consumption, as we discussed. Then drought monitoring. So, we have to monitor continuously as far as the rainfall levels, and then comparison with the usage level, and then say whether there is say with overuse or with misuse, whether there is any possibility of man-made drought like that. So, for example, say in a Gulf country like Yemen, say say they are using groundwater for agriculture purposes. So, due to the overuse, it has been observed that the groundwater tables are going drastically down, say since due to overuse for the cart crop. So, that way say we have to do appropriate interventions, so that to protect the available groundwater resources and then effectively utilize it. Then we have to go for monitoring of moisture levels, like to help predict increased risk for wildfires using such metrics as Palmer drought index, what we discussed in the last lecture. So, that way we have to see the monitoring of moisture levels. Then another important aspect is the land use as far as the drought mitigation and protection is concerned. So, say as I mentioned earlier, say as far as agriculture is concerned, say instead of going for, so especially the drought prone area, instead of going for the high water intensive crops, so we can go for low water intensive crops, and then we can go for crop rotations, and then we can minimize the erosion and allow farmers to plant less water dependent crops in drier or the drought years. Then also we can go for outdoor water use restriction, like regulate use of sprinklers, hoses or buckets on outdoor plants, then filling pools and other water intensive home maintenance tasks. So, this way we can conserve the water. Then as we discussed, the rainwater harvesting is one of the most important aspects as far as the mitigation measures and protection is concerned. So, rainwater harvesting is collection and storage of rainwater from roofs or other suitable catchments, so that can be either directly utilized or we can recharge back to the aquifer systems. Then recycled water, say like wastewater or sewage, treated and purified for reuse, say either for domestic purposes or the gardening or the agriculture purposes. And then also we can look to the possibility of transvasement, like building canals or redirecting rivers as massive attempts at irrigation in drought prone areas. So, you can see that in a state like Gujarat, so we can see that with respect to this Narmada river canal system. So, now Gujarat state is taking the water from the Narmada river or its canal systems to the drought prone areas of Kutch and other areas. So, that through these kinds of by building canals and water transfer, so we can mitigate the drought, or we can reduce the effect of droughts in an effective way. So, then say as I mentioned, in drought prone areas, say if the rainfall is less, so then we can go for instead of and especially we can see that as a consequence of droughts or the most of the areas, the evaporation will be much more. So, that way if we store the water in surface reservoirs, then what happens, more water will be lost through evaporation. So, that way now we can even go for dams called groundwater dams. So, groundwater dams say we can store water underground rather than on the surface. So, say for example, in China, say under the scheme called Mother's Water Cellar, the project launched in August 2000 by China Women Development Foundation. Now, say many areas, drought prone areas, they are providing water through these schemes. So, this provides readily accessible potable water for about 1 million people in rural China by developing these so called groundwater dams. So, that way that kind of changes are possible. And then also we can go for percolation tanks, say. So, percolation tanks actually say we can use for temporary storage of water, and that also act as groundwater recharge to the aquifer systems. So, that way the water will be available. Say, so these percolation tanks have been used effectively in many parts of western India, like in Maharashtra, Gujarat and Rajasthan. So, this has been the source of water for 15 million farmers in semi-arid basaltic plateau in western India. So, that way as far as mitigation preparedness is concerned, we can go for groundwater dams, percolation tanks and many other schemes depending upon the geographical conditions and the area. So, these groundwater dams are concerned. So, actually this is a structural measure. So, you can see that say this is how a groundwater dam is constructed. So, this is the structure we are building. So, this is the ground surface and this is the riverbed level. So, we are constructing below the ground like this and these are the structures that intercept or obstruct natural flow of groundwater and store water underground. So, the basic principle is instead of storing the water in surface reservoirs, water is stored in underground. So, there is no possibility of contamination, and then we can reduce the evaporation problems and then there is no problem of submergence of land. So, this is one of the structural measures which has been found to be very effective. So, these groundwater dams can be like subsurface dams. So, this is a subsurface dam. So, this here we intercepts or obstruct the flow of an aquifer and then reduces the variations of levels of groundwater table upstream of the dam, and it is built entirely under